Warning. This video contains spoilers for the Werecleaner. If you wish to play the game spoiler-free, viewer discretion is advised. The opinions expressed in this video are the official opinions of Corvid Communications Incorporated. Please enjoy the video.
Do you have issues with a messy office? Got problematic workers that you can't legally fire yet? Then consider hiring lycanthropy janitors. Each of our employees is a werewolf, ready and able to help with all of your sanitation needs. We'll clean your office, your restrooms, dispose of those annoying employees, and clean up any incriminating evidence of the deed at no extra charge. Book one of our wonderful cleaners today. Lycanthropy janitors, bringing a whole new meaning to the term moonlighting.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of Mr. Cawthorne Reviews. As always, I am Calvin Cawthorne, CEO of Corvid Communications Incorporated and host of the Corvid Communications Twitch channel. And tonight, the game we're talking about is a fun little indie stealth comedy video game brought to my attention by my model artist slash rigger and longtime friend, Loading Delayed. Speaking of, go follow them, they're wonderful. I'd like to introduce you all to the Werecleaner, one of the most charming indie games I have ever seen. In the Werecleaner, you're playing as Kyle Milton, mild-mannered janitor at Howling Hugs, a company that makes wolf plushies. You spend the tutorial level cleaning up a couple of messes during the day. You would head home, and that's when you discover Kyle's secret. By day, Kyle Milton is the mild-mannered janitor of Howling Hugs' corporate office. By night, he is... You're very good boy. Look at him. The adorable face, the little wagging tail, the slightly dopey way his tongue sticks out. I don't care about all this nonsense about murderous instincts. This is a good boy. The best boy. Oh, sorry. Got away from myself for a second. Anyway, Kyle turns into a werewolf during the night. He stays in his apartment at night to keep others safe from his wolfish instincts. And this has worked out pretty well for him. Until this week, that is. The CEO of Howlin' Hugs decided it would be a great idea to make everyone at the company work a week of unpaid overtime, withholding their pay if they don't comply. I sense a class action lawsuit in Mr. Howell's future. With a look of determination in his eyes, Kyle goes out, determined to do his job, not get fired, and pay his rent, all while trying to keep his wolfish nature a secret. But our adorably canine hero must brave all sorts of peril, including bloodstains, literal shit stains, a corporate revolution, horrible forklift accidents, rats, snakes, demon summoning, and a security officer who's murderously angry when he finds out Kyle's a werewolf. All while trying to remain unseen, because Kyle's wolfy instincts force him to kill anyone who sees him, and a death means another thing to clean up. And if someone else sees the body, you gotta kill them too. After all, gotta leave no trace. Very simple premise, sure, absolutely, but damn if this game doesn't present itself with charm and style. So, with the premise of the game being a werewolf trying to live as normal a life as he can, I think there's actually a bit of commentary that could be potentially made here regarding living with a disability. Whether that be a visible disability like needing a wheelchair, or a less visible disability such as a nerve condition which may affect your ability to stand for long periods, or a mental condition like autism, which I myself have long suspected I have. Before I go on, I'm going to go ahead and add a disclaimer here. The following potential interpretation of Werecleaner's story is just the opinion of me, Mr. Calvin Cawthorne, on a possible interpretation of the story of a free indie game. The following is not the stated intent or interpretation of the developers. Please don't sue us. Also, this particular section will likely not have a lot of jokes. So, Kyle is trying to live as normal a life as his condition allows. When he is allowed to work during the day and is allowed to remain home in his apartment at night when he transforms, everything's fine. Kyle is in a place where he's not likely to hurt people and can more or less handle himself. His boss is likely unaware of his condition, as is the rest of the office staff, because when he's allowed to work normally, no one's the wiser and his condition has no effect on his work. In some ways, this parallels how people with less visible disabilities may choose not to disclose their conditions, whether that be for fear of being passed over for hiring or to avoid a possible stigma they may face while at work. The mandatory overtime puts Kyle in a very compromising position. It forces him into a no-win scenario where he puts himself and his coworkers at risk, because he has no control over his instincts when seen. And Kyle is aware of this. If he doesn't work, he loses his apartment, which is what allows him to manage his condition so well under normal circumstances. But he's forced into that risk. And this is often the unfortunate reality of working with a disability. Kyle must work or he loses his home. And even if he were to let his employer know of his condition, he would likely still be forced to work anyway. After all, withholding pay for not doing mandatory overtime already shows Mr. Howell doesn't give two shits about labor laws. Or he loses his home. And if he had disclosed his condition, he might have lost his job and by extension his home anyway. Even worse, a lot of businesses will find ways to get rid of disabled employees who request accommodations, while hiding it under their bureaucratic processes. So, if Kyle had told Mr. Howell, he would likely find himself getting fucked over by whatever passes for a disciplinary process at Howling Hugs. Mind you, this has happened for as unintrusive an accommodation as asking for a goddamn stool to sit in while working at a cash register, or even just being allowed to wear earplugs to minimize background noise. And a lot of times the businesses get away with it through both plausible deniability and the fact that the majority of people this happens to can't afford legal counsel, since living with a disability often increases one's living expenses. In some ways, the premise can be read as a mock-up for the more subtle forms of ableism that exist within the corporate world. And then there's Daryl, Kyle's security officer. He becomes obsessed with finding out the truth about the quote-unquote monster that's been roaming the office. And when he learns it's Kyle, he becomes murderously angry and tries to kill Kyle for quote-unquote lying and being a possible threat. And this scenario plays out regardless of whether or not you killed someone during the game. But in Kyle's case, he didn't have a choice. As per Kyle, he needs to pay his rent, just like anyone else would. Meanwhile, Daryl, upon learning of Kyle's condition, wants him gone, which is in some ways an analog for the overt ableism people with disabilities often experience in the workplace. There's also the pamphlet that tells you the rules of being a werewolf, and it looks like it's made up by some sort of support network for Kyle and other werewolves trying to hash it out in normal society, called Werewolf Society Integrated, which mirrors a lot of real-life disability support groups such as the Autism Support Network, which, in addition to providing a mutual aid network, can sometimes produce helpful literature for those who have been recently diagnosed or those who are really struggling. Now, I am not saying this is the intended message of the developers, but I am saying this game can work as a, admittedly darkly comedic, allegory for what it's like to live with a disability. After all, what makes good satire is the same thing that often makes for excellent horror. Authors of these genres often take their lived experiences and basically hold them up to a funhouse mirror, adding elements of the macabre or comedic extremes to elicit laughter or terror while hopefully cluing the audience into how those scenarios really play out in a more mundane fashion. Anyway, now that my little episode of fontification is over, let's move on to the art and gameplay. The game's gory and more horrific themes are presented through an adorable, Animal Crossing-like art style that makes it all just so fun to look at. And in spite of the possibility of watching Kyle maul someone, you can't help but look at it and go, "Aw, isn't that adorable?" And the game never breaks from this cutesy style. even for moments that would have a lot of emotional impact had the developers gone for a more detailed look. This keeps the game very lighthearted and funny in spite of some of the more dark themes presented. The gameplay is as fun as it is addicting. You have access to your whole moveset from the start of the game, and you're taught how to use them at the start of each level, when you start needing to use them to progress. You can suck up trash, spray water to clean off stains, bag people's heads, or shoot a ball of garbage to distract people who may have otherwise seen you. You also need to occasionally bag up a bunch of critters that got loose and are making a mess of the place. Each worker has a set route during each level that you'll want to take notice of so you aren't seen, if that's your goal anyway. The AI has a good balance of between always seeming aware of your every move to the point of seeming omniscient and being absolutely blind to the point of seeming absolutely oblivious. It's a nice balance to a simple mechanic that, to me, always seems to be done wrong in other games. I'm looking at you, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, and you're all seeing guards. The game points you towards stealth, but you can, I repeat, you can murder everyone in the office so long as you clean up the bodies, clean all the other messes in the level, and make it to the exit before time runs out. The choice is obviously up to you, but the game encourages the user to play stealthily and avoid killing if at all possible, given how Kyle is characterized. After all, one person seeing you can lead to what can charitably be described as disaster dominoes. There's also plenty of achievements, such as for managing to get through a level quickly, and managing to get through all the levels without killing everyone.
That's right. I'm the good boy.
Or managing to kill absolutely everyone on the most crowded level. This gives the game a lot of replayability if you didn't get everything the first playthrough. This game is so fun that even after I streamed the whole game, I went back and got 100% on it just because I was having so much fun with it. You can also find collectibles in each level that give a little bit of extra lore for what the work environment is like at Howlin' Hugs. It doesn't affect gameplay too much, but it's a nice little detail. I adored this game, and I still adore this game. It's free, it's got a great hook, and perhaps most impressive of all, this game was made by a bunch of people at college. If you look at the publisher, it says USC Games, which publishes games their students make, and that is super awesome. Anyway, let's give this game a score. For gameplay, Werecleaner gets a 5 out of 5 because it's simple, pretty easy to get the hang of, and if you're not trying to complete the level, it can be really fun to just mess with the office workers using the powers you've been given. For story, Werecleaner also gets a 5 out of 5. For the limited scope and length of the game, the story suits it all well. The only thing it leaves me with is unanswered questions regarding how werewolves exist in this world, but I'm not expecting Tolkien-level world building for a game that can be completed in a couple hours. For replayability, I also give it a 5 out of 5. I could easily come back to this game, and while I might not get that new game feeling from it anymore, I could easily have a moment where I say, damn it, I want to play through the whole game again, and get my full fix, only really missing that whole first time playing it feel. For length, Werecleaner gets a 4 out of 5. Only because the game is very short. You can 100% complete it in a few hours if you know what to do. Much like Little Nightmares, I was left wanting more, but I'm not sure what they could add. Now, after putting those numbers to my accounting department, Werecleaner gets an overall score of 4.75 out of 5. Werecleaner is a damn near perfect game for what it's going for. As for closing thoughts, I love this game. I will recommend this game to anyone looking for a silly casual game to enjoy. Go play Werecleaner. I guarantee you'll have a good time. Anyway, that's it for me this evening. Stay tuned for my next review, which will be made at a future date of whenever I get around to it. Thank you for watching, and as always, at Corvid Communications, we won't leave you eating crow.